This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions.
A payroll and HR company needs to be prepared for whatever's going to happen. You could say that over 70 years of experience helping businesses all over the world run smoothly is good preparation. But for ADP, that's not enough. To make sure millions of people are getting paid on time and in compliance, we're staying on top of each new piece of legislation. So when it comes down to it, ADP isn't just a payroll and HR company. We're the company that helps you navigate the complexities. ADP, HR talent, time, benefits, and payroll. Informed by data and designed for people.
Hi everyone, this is my 6th podcast. Please can you follow me and subscribe to me and like or retweet any of my messages on Twitter. It's Mark Hayward. It's at Mark Hayward 169. Or check me out on YouTube, where I've got some video blogs for both Twitter and for YouTube. So that's the plug. I'm going to talk to you about sales and marketing today. So I'm going to take, first of all, sales, and I'm going to talk you through doing a pitch. So what are the key components of being able to do a impressive pitch? And then we'll talk about marketing on a wider sense of what essentially the artistic side of marketing and the sort of analytical side of marketing as well. So first things first, sales, pitch. A pitch. Now, I've broken this into 4 different things that you need to do so that you're able to attract the best when you're talking to investors, when you're talking to clients. You need these 4 things to be able to hook them, to be able to bring them together, bring them along the journey to the end point where they then buy something from you. So let's start at the first point, which is the promise. Now, this is the hook. This is what you need to get from your people that you're talking to hook them in. It happens in the first 5, 10, maybe 30 seconds of your pitch. It's critical that you use something that you might want to use a question, an affirmative question, to be able to trigger some sort of response from the person listening to you. We're kind of talking like small numbers rather than a large presentation to hundreds of people. We're talking about when you're trying to get an investor or sell a piece of work, or it's being able to grab their attention and hook them in, and that sets the tone for the next, whatever it is, 25 minutes if it was a 30-minute presentation, or next 55 minutes, whether it's a longer one for 60 minutes. In that first moment, you need to get their attention. You need to attract them. You need to tweak them. You need to just push them so that they're alert and open and listening to you. It needs to be punchy and catchy. It needs to be able to pull them in and attract them. You see now on some of the people that do video blogs on YouTube, all the people who have done lots and lots of them, they're able to pick up right from the start a quote, a hook, a thing they repeat every time. It's really, really important that you're able to create that sort of atmosphere very, very quickly. Right, so I think I've spoken enough about that. The next point is to be able to paint a picture. So this is, after you've got the hook, you then want to create an idea around what you're selling. You want to be able to link the emotions of the listener to the product. So very cliched, but I'm going to use it anyway. The Wolf of Wall Street, when Leonardo DiCaprio says about the pen, sell me the pen. Now, what happens far too often is people start talking about that it's a fountain pen or a ballpoint pen, and it's silver, and that's this and that. That's not painting a picture. What you want to say is, this is the pen that is going to be your £1 million deal. You're going to sign it with this pen. wow, everyone then just that creates an emotion from someone. So if it's creating an investor for a business, you're then saying to that person, I want your investment, and I'm going to have £1 million worth deal because I've got this pen. If you're talking about in a career, so you're trying to sell something to a client, it might be painting a picture of a user, or or being able to develop an idea around the usability, because what you find is most people will buy with their emotions. That means even if you're walking around a shopping centre, if your emotions are tweaked by the music that's in a store, or you're intrigued by a salesperson that comes up to you very nicely and smiles at you and engages you in a conversation, that might mean that you might be interested then to have a conversation with them about buying something in their store. So this is really, really, really important. It just brings the emotions of the listener to move from the hook to then create an emotional will to buy your product or service or whatever it is. Now, this is the bit where you go into your detail. So this is the proof section. Now, what you need to do, you need to tell stories or comments about specifications. Now, this is a bit where you get a bit geeky. And whatever you're selling, whether it's if it's software, you might talk about the capabilities, the security, the ability to be able to use on multiple servers. The capacity of being able, if it's a calculator, then you've got the capacity to be able to do so many transactions. This is where you really drill into the detail, and what you'll find is after you've hooked them, used their emotions, dazzle them with data. And that's a really strong way of being able to move someone from their emotions to their rational side of their brain, to be able to understand, wow, so I like this person, they're interesting, I now am listening, I'm properly listening, and now they're telling me that it can do 50,000 transactions in an hour. And now I'm thinking, well, actually, my business only needs 20,000. It has a great capacity. I've got to work with this person. I've got to work with this company. This part is the bit, if you're talking to an investor, this is the bit where you go into the detail of the product, service that you are selling, that you want to develop. And this is where you talk to them about the nuts and bolts of the project. So this is using the rational side of the brain, as I said. And then you talk about the pitch. Now you might think, oh, I've just talked all about the last however minutes on the pitch. Well, actually, what this bit is, you want to give the listener one thing to do. You don't want to overcomplicate this bit. You want this nice and simple, nice and calm. You want to then talk about why that person should be choosing your product or service. Now, I've got a story about a company that there was a research that was done, and they gave some consumers 35 jams, and there was all different types of jams. Maybe there was apricot, maybe there was raspberry, maybe there was strawberry, whatever the flavours, and they all had subtleties with a hint of this or a splash of that or whatever it was. Now, what you find is when you're given that amount of options, you won't choose anything. Because even though, let's just say, we'll carry on with the jam metaphor, you like strawberry jam, but if you've then got, I'm kind of making this up, but if you've then got a strawberry jam with a hint of apricot and a strawberry jam with a hint of balsamic vinegar, and I don't know if that works, but a hint of jam, a strawberry jam with a hint of raspberries or black currants or whatever, you're going to find out that actually you're not sure which one you really want. So when they then did this experiment with providing 8 jams, which were probably strawberry, raspberry, blueberry, apricot, whatever other jams, but let's just say there was only 8 of them, you found they bought more often because they went there and they had options of jams. They then made the decision they liked jams, and then they knew what flavour they liked. And because there was distinct differences and there was only a few of them, they were more likely to buy out of 8 jams. Now, I think that's incredibly interesting, and the psychology of being able to give someone enough options that make people want to buy. Let's just take another example of retail. So if you want to buy a pair of trainers or a pair of shoes or whatever, you go into a store and you speak to the assistant and they say, so what do you want? And you say, well, black shoes or black trainers, whatever. If you then come back with even 4, 5, 6 options, so this theory says you're going to not get a buy. But if you give them 2 or 3 options and explain to them, paint the picture, give them the evidence. Maybe you've already had the hook because you've pricked their interest when they came in. Now you've used all of these different phases that when you come down to this point, you're giving them 2 or 3 options and they're more likely to buy. So the messages from me is don't overwhelm the buyer, the investor, with too many options. Right, so that is your 4 stages of a pitch. I just want to briefly talk about the skills that salespeople need to have. Now, this is just quite a general outline of what sales skills they need. So you need to be able to show a prospect. You need to be able to find something that people are interested in. You then need to be able to trigger and be able to make them trust you. Trust is an incredibly important part of business, which I don't think gets talked about enough. I really think you need to work with people and they trust you. You need to work with clients that trust you to resolve a problem or get something right first time. So that's your clients. And then when you're going into pitches, you need to create a trust that they believe you when you say that your product does X, Y, and Z. They trust you that you are telling them what that is. A skill that salespeople need to be able to do is also be able to identify needs. So say you go into a meeting and you have 5 products that you want to talk to the client about. The first thing you do is talk to the client about their needs. You don't tell them the different products you've got because that's counterintuitive. What you need to make them think about is what needs do they have that would be able to trigger a supply produced by you when you're trying to sell. So it's incredibly important to be able to listen to those cues that they give you and then be able to say, well, what about product A? Product A solves that problem that you've got. That thing that you're having sleepless nights about, well, my product can solve that problem. It's going to save you money. It's going to remove resource from a labor-intensive task. It's going to be able to deliver what you need to do faster, more efficient, more automated, less human endeavor. And so I'm talking about software here. And that's a really good way of being able to be able to sell to clients. The next point I just want to talk about is be able to persuade people by presenting. A power of persuasion is a little bit of dark arts, really, because you've got to be able to, all these things that I talked about in the pitch, persuade someone that they can trust you and that they want what you have, what product service that you have. So you just need to people need to like you. People need to trust you. People need to engage with you. And if you can do those things, often you can persuade people into what they want. Now, actually, something that salespeople, I've found the best salespeople actually smile. Sounds like a very simple thing, but it is incredibly important. It's incredibly important to be able to smile in pitches and presentations, because it gives an air of confidence. It relaxes people. They feel engaged because they smile because you're smiling. So that's a great way of being able to persuade people, is by smiling. The other thing you need to do is be able to close the sale. So it sounds quite obvious, and it is, but essentially you need to be able to pull all the heartstrings, the emotions, the brain, the rational brain, but you've got to be able to close them. You've got to be able to make them sign that contract that day, or be able to commit to you verbally of a contract on that day. Now, sometimes you find that things are slow burners, and you find things aren't done over one demo or one presentation, but you make on your assessment whether that's actually going to happen today, or whether you need to wait a little bit longer to be able to close that sale. So just use your judgment call on that. And then one of the other things is be able to get referrals. So you work and you have sold something to Joe Blogs, and Joan Blogs does something similar, and John says, well, actually, he did very well, and so maybe, Joan, you should think about working with him. Word of mouth, even though with the idea of social media, which is, in a sense, word of mouth. I saw on I'm not sure if it was Facebook or Twitter, that it said that social media is word of mouth on steroids. I think it was on Twitter, which I thought was incredibly funny. So you need to be able to get those sorts of referrals. And also the other thing to be able to think about is to be able to get resales. So you're constantly being able to sell to somebody, so they continue as your business partner. But you also might want to sell them something else. All these skills that for salespeople is their bread and butter. So I definitely make you, if you're going into sales, thinking about sales, to be able to think about how to get referrals and resales. Right.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, I'm Alex, the host of X Health Show. Meet the future of healthcare. Think X-Men, that's X Health. Actual superheroes behind programming living cells to cure cancer once and for all. Tech that detects preterm delivery in seconds, brain-computer interface, or apps that employ AI to match you, your disease, with the best treatment. X Health Show brings to you visionaries who push the boundaries of healthcare from Switzerland, the heart of Europe and the most innovative country in the world. Let me introduce you to their startups. Head to X Health Show, meet the future of healthcare. Happy to greet you there.
Right. I just want to now talk about marketing. So marketing can be kind of split into two different things. Into the science and the art. But before we get to that, marketing is incredibly important for business. This is how you get your message to the buyers. Sales is getting your foot in the door. Marketing sometimes is getting the customers, get the correct people in your store. So if you're talking about a shop, for example, you are selling trainers, fashionable trainers, which you've worked out is the demographic of 18 to 25 or maybe 15 to 25. And so you've now got your target. That's all marketing. It's being able to understand what the product and the demographic that you need to be able to get your vision or your message or your sales of your product out. So that's just sort of headline on what marketing is. So I've talked a couple of times on this about the art form and the science side. So the art form is being creative, finding new techniques of selling things. In some cases, it's being controversial for controversy's sake. a good example of that, it's not meant to be a pun of being an artist, but Damien Hirst. So he was able to create his various art pieces with the various animals cut in half, and etc., etc. Now, what that does is that creates a viral nature of what they're selling, which is their artwork. So it's incredibly important to be able to create emotions from your viewers, from your followers, whoever, subscribers, whatever it is, and to trigger an emotion by being slightly controversial is a great way of being able. It polarizes opinion, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that makes people, the lovers, the people that love you, buy, and the people that hate you, well, they're not so good. If you're somewhere in the middle, most people won't buy because they like you, but they're like, well, I could get this from 100 different sources. Where if someone's controversial, that makes them intriguing, that makes them interesting. So that's the art side. The more science side, which has become in recent times, probably in the last 15 years or so, 10, 15 years, is being able to use data and analysis. And in this world of big data, it gives lots more opportunities for marketing by using this data. You're able to, with big data, you're able to predict with accuracy the demographics, so the age, the sex, where they live, their salary, all those things are built in to using by using big data, or by using some sort of data set, so you understand what you're selling, but who you're selling it to. So there's generally thought of that there's two types of marketing. So there's brand, which is a non-direct response, and then there's a direct response to marketing, which is regarding data, people opting in, etc. So just thinking about if you wanted to launch a product, you could do pre-launches, understanding the demographic of people that you want to sell to. But it's more the idea that if you're doing a pre-launch, then you can get the product out there, get some responses, get some opinions, which then can direct where you go later on with the actual product. So testing is so important. It doesn't matter what you do, especially with new businesses, new products, new services. Get it out there. Get alpha testers, get people testing, get people using it, whether it's for free or for money, depends on what your budget is, but it's incredibly important to get tests to be able to understand who is actually interested in your product. So by testing, at the end of after you've tested, you want feedback, and you basically want people to tell you what to stop doing, what to start doing, and what to continue doing. So this is really, really, really important. You will often find that this sort of start, stop, continue is incredibly important. We use it in agile methodology when we're doing review and retrospective meetings. I won't go too much into it, but essentially it's after a sprint of 2 weeks, we then assess how we've done, and we use what should we stop doing, what should we start doing, and what should we continue doing. It's an incredibly powerful way of being able to analyze very quickly the best bits, the worst bits, and the stuff that has potential. Right, so next, for marketing, we used to only have snail mail, post, word of mouth, brochures or flyers, etc. We've now moved into the digital age, which means that you've now got social media, so Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is, whatever's best for you. You can sell products on those platforms, and that can be incredibly successful, very successful. You've got YouTube advertising, which after you've got a certain number of subscribers, then you can start advertising, selling things, having sponsors, etc. pay-per-clicks. So you can use Google or Facebook. There's ways of being able to get pay-per-clicks. You still have things like direct response. You have podcasts. You have video blogs. So just to give a quick insight, so the stuff that I'm doing on social media, on podcasts and video blogs, it's all about creating a brand for myself, and I'm hoping to develop that over the number of years, not looking 2 months to be able to get something commercial out of it, but definitely in it for the long haul. So we'll wait and see. So that's incredibly important. So when you start thinking about measuring your marketing, specific marketing, now there's going to be a lot of acronyms that people throw at you and stuff, and we just need to just be a little bit careful with all of this. Essentially, you want to be able to get leads from your way of marketing. So if you're investing £5 to advertise on pay-per-clicks or whatever, you want to be able to produce £10 of sales. Numbers are not important at this moment. It could be 50 and 100, whatever. But you want to be able to get leads. Now, leads are different to sales, and they're often the starting point. You start from using the marketing to get leads, get opportunities, which lead to conversations, which mean you're testing, you're then understanding what the client wants, you might tweak, you might change, and then leads and opportunities then end up as sales. So just so there is a distinction between leads or opportunities to actual sales. Now you want to be able to think about how much you're investing in your marketing. Now, I've just given you a very simple example of 5 and 10 or 50 and 100, but it is critical that you don't overspend on marketing. And it's also critical that you're able to assess what you think you'd be able to recoup from this marketing. Now, there is also a lot of marketing materials that you can use in social media, which are free. Some of it isn't free. Some of it you have to be a little bit more mindful of, but you basically want to be able to get to the point where you are creating opportunities, creating leads, and turning them into sales. Now, there's a whole sphere, which I'm not going to go into today, about how you then create lifelong customers, how you add value, how you do revenue versus customers, reinvesting profits. It's all a very complicated, and I might come back to this at a later stage and talk to you more about it. But I just want you to think about, there's ways of being able to market, to be able to do your marketing. You then create leads, and then leads lead to questions, answers, tweaking, pivoting, changing, getting better, and then that turns into sales. So, I think you need to start thinking. If you're using different types of social media, you could use Twitter or Instagram. You can use hashtags to be able to get to a wider audience. There are ad feeds that you can get involved in. There's also, going back, a lot of people still, Tim Ferriss, I think Kevin Rose does. I think I've signed up for Kevin Rose to give me some details. They still use blogs and still use a email list. Now, the one thing about difference between social media and email lists are, social media, if you have a contact in social media, you DM an influencer, for example, you're going to only be able to do that over Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, and you can direct message them. But you don't own that relationship until you get them on email. So just there's this clear distinction for me that, yes, social media is very, very important and it's a great business catalyst. But if all your relationships are on social media, that is actually owned by a social media company. I would advise to get them onto your mailing list, and then release your content. If it's something specific, like a blog, on your email address rather than using just social media. So just briefly, podcast. So I'm trying to expand my network, expand my group, my followers, my subscribers by using podcasts as well. So that's something you should think about. So I'm not going to go for too much longer, but I think just on a sort of wrap up is you need to, I've not mentioned this before, but you need to have your vision. You need to know what you want to do, whether you're selling a product, service, your brand, whatever it is, you need to have that vision. You then want to be able to communicate that vision through your sales and marketing. And then you want to, what I haven't mentioned before, but just think about what is your unique selling point? What is the thing that's going to create interest and create people that are going to want your product? And it's got to be unique. And the more unique it is, the more likely it's going to go viral. And something you should always remember is what you're trying to do in business is be able to serve and solve. Serve your clients, solve their problems. If you do those two things, you will find success. You will be successful, whether it's a product, service, business, whatever it is. So I'm going to wrap up there. So just in sort of conclusion, so I've talked a little bit about sales and about how to create a pitch. And then I've kind of talked about what the skills that a salesperson would need. And then we've sort of gone a little bit quicker on marketing. Maybe I'll come back at a later stage and talk more about marketing. But thinking about how you then convert those opportunities, those leads, into sales. And you do that through mediums, but whether it's social media, whether it's blogs, whether it's podcasts, whatever it's letters, flyers, brochures, whatever it is. And you turn them into sales. So let's stop there. I'm just going to recap. So what you need to think about, from my perspective, what I'd like to just talk to you about is my Twitter account, which is Mark Hayward 169 at Mark Hayward 169. You can find me on Mark Hayward on Twitter. That's where I do my video blogs. That's where I do my responses and conversations with people, so please check that out. I've also got a YouTube channel where all of my video blogs are stored as well. I will every so often share that with everyone, and then you've got all of them, and you can go and to look at any one of them, so please check that out as well. And obviously, please keep on following the podcast. That'd be great. Further ado, I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much. So if you can't remember anything about me, think that I'm a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. Thank you very much.